the cloud. Okay, good evening. I hope you could hear me out there.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. It's okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we can mute yourself now. Thank you. And now we'll, if you have a question, you can always ask. We're continuing now the third chapter of Mesilas Yesharim that is called Bechelkei Hazehirus. It's concerning the divisions of watchfulness. After describing it in general, now we're going to get a little bit more specific, the detailed parts of Zehirus. So Luzzatto begins. Hine haroitze lipakeach al atzmo. If a person wants to watch over himself, shtayim hena hahashkafas hatzrichalo. There are two overall things he has to be looking at that is very necessary for this to happen. Now, before we even go any further, you can notice right away that he starts off by saying, haroitze, you want. If you want to watch over yourself, that's the key right there. It's in the will for a person wanting to watch over and investigate what he's doing. If he wants, then as we ended off the last chapter, you'll have siyata d'shmaya, Hashem will help you. And certainly after the last two chapters of this book, Luzzatto's assuming that it would be proper for a person that he would want to be able to be looking over and checking out his ways. Okay, so he says there's two specific things, two areas. Moving on, ha'achas, one is, sheyisponein mahu hatov ha'amiti sheyivchar bo ha'adam. Number one is the person has to contemplate what is the true good that a person should choose, and also v'hara ha'amiti sheyanus mimenu, and what is the true evil that he should run away from. Okay, so first point he's saying that the Zehirus needs sheyisponein. You have to contemplate. It's not enough just to know what's the real good. You got to contemplate it. You got to think about it again and again. And the benefits from that is, because if you keep thinking about it, it becomes fixed in your heart. That is really the ultimate good. And once you contemplate a lot about it, then you certainly can understand all the general things, and then you can understand all the specifics and the particulars. You're going to be an expert at what this is all about. And and that's what Luzzatto said earlier in the book. He says, if you're not really focused, a lot of these ideas of Hasidus just pass you by. You don't even realize that you're involved in them and that they're there. Now, the next point he says is to know what is the tov ha'amiti, the true good. Now, there's a lot of times you think you're doing something good, but if you reflect, you may find out it really isn't really good. And there's a lot of times with the evil as well. Sometimes things don't seem to be that bad, but they truly are bad. Now, how are you going to know if something is really tov ha'amiti? Well, we already discussed earlier, Luzzatto mentioned that the ultimate good that Hashem wants to give, he said it in others form a lot more, the ultimate good that Hashem wants to give is himself. So therefore, anything that's really good has to be very much connected to Hashem. And as we will see later on in a subsequent chapter, that the only way you're going to know what the real good is by studying Torah. And you understand what the Ratzon of Hashem is and what the mitzvahs are, then you're going to understand what the true good is. So the only way you can reflect on this, as he'll say later on, is if you really know a lot of Torah. And you have to truly analyze if what you're doing is going in accordance with what the Torah has to say. So that's the one area of Zehirus, the one area of investigating. What is really emes good that you should be choosing, and what's the real emes ra you should be running away from? And that itself is a big job. Then once you've come to understand what that is, hashniya, the second, as he continues, Alamaisim asherhu also. Okay, now you've chosen what is the proper way of doing things. Now let's see what you've actually done. Let's match up what is the ultimate good, what is the ultimate evil, and now let's match up the things that you're doing. Liros imheim bichlal hatov or michlal hara. Are the things that you are doing, are they in fact good things that you said that you should be doing? Or are they evil things that you said you should not be doing? So how would you be able to do that? So you have to really look at it as a objective outside party within yourself. And the test would be like this. If let's say you were giving counsel to somebody else and your friend has said that he wants to do certain things he believes are good, and then he does certain actions and he asks you, well, what am I doing? Is it fitting into the good that I want to do or not? And it's always easy to see it on other people. And you have to make sure there's no personal bias over here. But that's what it really is about. So he's broken it down into two major categories. You have to really reflect, what is the true good that you want to achieve in life? And now those actions that you're doing, are they true good actions? Are they getting you there or are they not getting you there? So obviously, we're going to see as he continues, that you have to make some changes if they don't work, as he'll discuss that in a minute. So it comes out to summarize this first little section over here. So Luzzatto is telling us that these faulty behaviors result not so much from improper thought, but as just for not thinking at all. And remember, we said last chapter, just going by habit and not deliberating on the behavior that you're involved with. So therefore, he's saying we've got the two components. What is it that I wish to do? And what is the method to achieve it? Now, a simple mashal can help us understand this a little better. I'm sure there have been times you go to the store and you hand somebody a $100 bill. And the first thing they do is they're going to check it out. There's some places have little machines where they put it up to a light or something, and they're trying to see if the money is counterfeit. Now, the counterfeiters are getting better and better, and things that are worth nothing, but they look exactly like a real dollar bill. So that's the idea over here, that a lot of times you say, well, this is the good I really want to do. And now you have to match up and see, what did you do? And what did you do? Was it authentic? Was it a genuine good? Was this a tov amiti? Or was it a counterfeit good? And there's many reasons why good can become counterfeit, as we shall see. So let's continue. Now these two steps of what's your goal in life and what are the actions that are getting you there, and are those actions you're doing appropriate? He says, when does this thought be required? Bishas maisa, at the times when you're actually doing the action, ushalo bishas maisa, and at the times when you're not doing the actions. And he's going to explain both of them, and what is it that you're having sehirus about, and what are you contemplating? So bishas maisa, at the time of action, meaning you're just about ready to do it, shlo yasa shum maisa, you shouldn't do any action at all. That means a big thing, a small thing. And we know that everything we do in life is not just an action, but there's thought, speech, and action. So at the time you're about to think about something, to say something, or to do something, shum maisa, even the smallest action, should not be mibli, without having shikul also b'mozne zos hayidia, without weighing that behavior on the scales of your understanding. If you are saying, my goal in life is to connect to Hashem, my goal in life is Olam Haba, and the true good in life are, as the Torah lists the number of mitzvahs to do and behaviors and midos and this and that, and now you're about to do a certain action, and you have to ask yourself, before you do the action, is this in line with what I have made as a goal in life? Weighing it, as it were. This is a huge, huge thing that he's talking about. because who in the world ever thinks before they do anything anymore? You know, we just automatically think we know what to do all the time, and we don't think. If you looked at the great tzaddikim of yesteryear, and even tzaddikim now, one thing they never do something, generally speaking, with impulsiveness. They stop and think, is this something I should do or not? Okay, sometimes you don't have time, you have to save somebody's life, then there's nothing to think about. But generally speaking, before you're going to do anything, you got to weigh it up and make sure that it fits. Now, again, as we mentioned earlier, he's saying, but the problem is people just go by habit, and then we get into bad habits, and we don't inspect the habits anymore. We assume this is what I do all the time, and now I should continue to do this. And it might very well be, when was the last time you thought about that behavior? Is it comporting with that which your goals are? So this is a big thing, and that really would slow us down dramatically. And for us to think, somebody has insulted you. Okay, now what's going to be your response? So you have to understand, sometimes it could be a response is warranted. Sometimes, and most often, it's not warranted. Well, then you got to weigh up and say, okay, what are my goals in life? My goal, what's the true good in life? Is the true good in life that I should feel good about responding to somebody and having a smarter rejoinder than the insult he gave? Or maybe the real good is, as Chazal say, that the people who are insulted and don't respond are the ones who hold the world up. And isn't that what you want to do, and hold the world up? But at the time that you're angry and you're insulted, you're not stopping to think. So you got to really stop to think. So sometimes you could do that. Sometimes, let's say, if you have to make a call with somebody, before you pick up the phone, you have to make the call. You can stop and think and figure, this might be a contentious call. What are my spiritual goals? But a lot of times it's just coming right out of nowhere. And it's a good rule of thumb is always to wait. It's like such a good rule of thumb. A lot of times, most things in life, you can wait before you act on them. I'm not saying everything. Sometimes you have to make a quick decision, but more often than not, you have time to make a decision. Somebody calls you, do you want to go somewhere? We're going to go somewhere next week. You say, you know what, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. There's nothing wrong with saying, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. You don't always have to come up with fast answers right away. So that's the first one. And that already would be amazing if you would be able to just pause before you would do things. I know we're not used to this. You go say, oh, that's going to be real painful. Yeah, it will, I guess, in the beginning, to slow down and not make decisions right away, but to just not act on your impulses. You see what the damage of that was to Reuven, one of our great Jewish leaders, son of Yaakov. Reuven, as we know, was destined to be the Bechor. He was destined to be a Kohen. He was destined to have everything. And what happened? Yaakov said, that's what you're destined for. But pachas kamayim al tosar, you were as swift as water. You were as impetuous as water. And of course, what had happened when he switched the beds after Rachel died, and Yaakov had one of the shvachos, was sleeping in one of the shvachos, the maid's tents. And he said, whoa, my mother's honor has been disgraced. I have to do something. And right away, he goes and does something. And it was a major mistake. Now, he thought it was tov. He thought it was good. But it wasn't tov amiti. He didn't weigh it a little more, didn't think a little more. We have this many times in the Torah. People don't wait. Shimon and Levi destroyed the city of Shechem without consulting with Yaakov. Is what they did. It seemed they did a good thing. What do you mean? Are they going to treat our sister like a harlot? That's what they said to Yaakov. But at the end of it all, Yaakov cursed their anger and their impetuosity as well. So certainly if the Shiftei Koach had trouble with this type of Zahirus, we can understand how difficult it is with us. But we have to try, once in a while, at least in the beginning. Now, remember, this can only be done if you already got your goals are clear. Your goals are clear what the absolute good is. If you don't even know what the absolute good is, then there's nothing even to stop and think about. Because you don't even know what you're supposed to be thinking about. Is this the right thing? Well, based on what? So that's where the Torah comes into play. So obviously, if you don't fill yourself up with a lot of proper Torah hashkafa in terms of midos development and proper ways to behave in certain ways, you don't even know what the Tov is. You can see how far away we are from this. But this just has to be to pique our interest in doing what we're going to have to begin to do. But then at least try once in a while, at least once a day, to not do something immediately. Even if you haven't learned enough Torah to know all the times what the absolute good is, but try as a beginning step. We make many decisions every day. You'd be surprised how many decisions you make. When you decide to turn on the television, that's a decision. If you're deciding to go for a walk on a cold day, if you're deciding what food to make for lunch, there's so many things you decide. Now, some of them are not consequential, but many of them are. So therefore, before you're going to do something, at least once a day, say, you know, I'm going to think for about 30 seconds if I should do this. So that'll already get you in the habit of slowing yourself down. And in a world that's so fast-paced, that's so keneged our learned teva now, that we just do things right away. And if I'm slow, it makes it look like I'm not quick and I'm not sharp. And so therefore, a critical point is just to stop and wait. And, you know, just like on those game shows, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where, you know, you get a lifeline, so to speak, and, you know, ask somebody for advice for the right answer. It's similar to this game, and what we're playing for is much more than $1 million. Because once you do something that's an avera, whoa, you're going to lose so much. It's so hard to do tshuva. And if it's a proper mitzvah, you've got way more than $1 million. Sometimes you need a lifeline. Sometimes what you need to do is stop and say, you know what, I don't know what to do. Maybe I have to speak to an objective friend or rabbi to know exactly what it is. So that's critical, that first point. Ushalo b'shas ma'isa, let's continue. And when it's not at the time of the action, what is that? Shiyal lefanav zichron klal ma'asa. When he starts to look back and remember his actions, to remember the deeds he's done in general, v'yishkol osam, and to, so to speak, weigh them, kimo came b'mosnei hamishkol, as it were, like people who weigh things on scales. Hazeliros im yesh ben mehara l'man yidchasa. This could be something done at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you say, let me go over what I did during the day, and let me weigh certain actions. Were these actions good or bad? So if what I did was something that's bad, then I should push it away. I should say, you know, this wasn't a really good thing I did. I may have to do tshuva on this, whatever, and say this kind of behavior I have to stop. Uma min hatov, and if you look at things, say, wow, that was really a good thing that I did, then lahas midbo, he should continue to do it, and strengthen himself in those things. So that's after the fact. You find a quiet time to reevaluate certain behaviors and decisions you made in the day based on what your understanding is of what are the good things in life you really want to do and the bad things you want to stay from, and match up the behavior to that. And if now you're going to find something, you know, what I really did here, it wasn't really a good thing. So now, what should you do if you realize it's not a good thing? Then az yizbonein v'yachkor. A person should reflect and investigate what he did, bisichlo, with his intellect. In other words, after he knows and he stopped and he says, you know what I did is absolutely wrong. So it's still not enough. It's not enough to say, oh, I did the wrong thing. There still has to be contemplation and investigation, because it's not enough. Here's the problem, is that, you know, now that I think about it, I should not have yelled at my spouse today. That really was wrong. That doesn't really get me to the goals that I'm trying to get in life. Okay, you reflected on it. So then what do? Well, many people say, well, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm going to make sure not to do it again. And that's where it begins, and then it ends. Well, it's not enough to just resolve to, I'm not going to do it again. You have to understand, well, how did you come to do it to begin with? What root of this were you lacking? Okay? what was it that prompted you to yell at your spouse? Not that you feel bad about it and say, oh, I'm not going to do it. You may even go to your spouse. I'm really sorry. Well, sorry doesn't really help very much. I'm sorry to say. Of course, we'd want you to regret, but regretting alone doesn't change anything. So that's why he's saying you have to be yisponim v'yachkor b'sichlo. You got to really start thinking, and you have to really investigate the cause of the matter and try to come up with strategies that will make it in the future that it won't happen. And that's what he's saying. You have to find Eza Tachbua. What strategy Yasa should you do? Lasur min hara, to stay away from the evil, hahu, to stay away from this. So he says it's not enough to recognize it's evil and to regret, but rather what's the strategy that you're going to employ in the future when the same situation happens again? What am I going to do this time to make sure it's not going to repeat itself? Okay, so again, let's give the example. The best one always is anger, because it's such many people suffer from this and many people don't get out of it. So there's all kinds of strategies. So why don't you, let's say you tell the family, next time you catch me getting angry, I have to give you $10. I'm giving an oversimplified example. That may not work for everybody, but at least that you're coming up with a strategy. Or next time I feel, you could say, well, I could tell when I'm getting angry. You know what? I got a rule. Whenever I'm boiling, I'm just going to walk out of the room and go outside for instance and cool down. Whatever the strategy is going to be, but you have to come up with a strategy. And every time, every night, you try to think of another strategy. Some people really may have to go to therapists for therapy. It's not always something that you can accomplish on your own. And then he adds one more thing. Not only they come up with the strategies, but it can't just not enough to just remove the evil, but he says, "Vili toher mimenu," and to purify yourself from it. Okay? That means you want to distance from any external causes that would cause that to happen. So sometimes it could be certain company, certain habits, and the cleansing of it. It's not only in planning strategies for the future, but not only doing tshuva and regret and confession and taking care of the damage that happened, but the cleansing is working on the bad midos. When you work on the bad midos, then that really is the deepest cleansing possible, because now you've totally removed it from the source of making all these problems for you. So this is a lot of work. We're going to go into much detail, but this is the overall understanding. Now, you have to ask yourself, how many of you really have sat down and contemplated the real good you want in life and the real bad in life? And then to say, before every action, let me see what I'm doing. Is it really good? Is it not? And then later on in the day at night, to reflect on all the actions you did. And if something is wrong, you have to figure out how you're going to fix this up and everything that's required to make sure that in the deepest way that isn't going to happen again. It's all a question of priorities. Now, again, this seems, and it is, a very excessive demand that Luzzatto is making from us over here. So here's the question. Don't we already do so when we're confronted with some decisions that are really important for us? When something's real important for us, okay, you're having to buy a house for the first time. Do you just buy the first house you have and accept the price that they offer without asking any questions? Well, a house is an important thing. Okay, I know it's a big decision in life. Yeah, it is. So you see, people are capable of deliberating on things. You decide on the house, what kind of house, what's a good house for us? What are the criteria of the house? We're looking for a house near a shul. We need a house with so many bedrooms. We need a house with a den and a study and this and that. It should be near a public transit and all these things. That's good. That's a good house. And what's a bad house? All these other things, leaky basement, good house with southern exposure. All these things. You got all these criteria of good and what's bad. And now you're going to buy the house and you're not even asking any of the questions that determine what's good and what's bad. But obviously we do that, and we spend a lot of time with that. So it's what interests us. It's an interesting story with Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. He was entering a small town, and in the morning, someone goes out of the shul and sees this very religious-looking man, and he sees he's a stranger. He says, Shalom Aleichem, by the way, might it be that you're a shochet, that you do ritual slaughtering? So Rav Levi Yitzchak says, yes, by the way, I am. So the guy says, oh, that's wonderful. Baruch Hashem, you're a godsend. I'm a butcher. I'm not a shochet, though. I'm a butcher, and I have a sickly cow. And my regular shochet is not going to be here for a couple more days. And by the time he comes, the cow will die, and I'm going to lose a lot of money. So it'd be very good if you could come right now and and go shech the cow, and you'll save me lots of money. So Reb Levi says, fine, I'm happy to help you. Why wouldn't I want to help you? But first, he said, I have a favor to ask from you. You see, I'm traveling around to raise money for my daughter's dowry. Perhaps you could lend me 50 rubles, and I promise you that I will pay you back. So the shochet says, what? You expect me to lend such a large sum of money to somebody that I don't even know? So Rav Levi Yitzchak said, just listen to what you said. You're perfectly willing to trust me as a shochet, and if I'm not a competent shochet, you'll be feeding treif meat to all your customers. Yet my word is good enough for you, but my word's not good enough to trust me with the money? So clearly your spiritual values and your natural material values are reversed in priority. You see, and that's the point. Things you really care about, you're not going to just do it right away. Things you don't care about, you're going to do right away. So that's what Lutzad was telling. We have to give the same consideration to what's ethically right or ethically wrong in the same way as we would be giving a lot of consideration what's economically right and economically wrong, and have just as much prudence with our money if it would be at risk, and not to be any less prudent with our spiritual values that could also be in danger. Now, just to conclude, an interesting idea that some of the Meforshim discuss, and he says a human being is like a large country. And just like a large country has many, many people who live in there, subjects in the country, so a person has many, many impulses and desires all day long. And a true melech, a true king, is not a king over other people, but he's a king over himself. And as a king over himself, he has to treat himself no different than people who are ruling over a country. And just like a country has certain basics about what it is founded upon, and then they make up laws, and then they have decide, should we go according to these laws and follow these laws and make sure people are, and what happens if they don't follow the laws, what kind of disciplinary actions are. There's all kinds of parts to running a country. You have to have the government making the laws, making sure people are complying with the laws, and making the right decisions, and consequences to that. And if you have all three of those, then the country runs pretty well. So therefore, this is really going on a micro level with the human being. We have to, number one, think what's the ultimate good and what's the ultimate bad. That's like the laws of the country. And what are the things we have to do to make those things happen? And what behaviors should we not be doing? And then we have to have judges to decide if people are not doing that, how we have to deal with that. And this is all part of the Zahirus that's over there. What you're really running, you're running a Malucha. And that again is the idea of the Keser. We all have these crowns and we're kings and we're destined to do things better than anybody else can do in what is ultimately good for us. And therefore, we've got to spend a lot of time in knowing exactly what are the things we should be doing, what should we not be doing to get us to those goals. And then we have to, before we do it, make sure, are we doing what we should be doing or not? And then to reflect on them afterwards. This is a good opening. And we'll continue tomorrow in developing this idea further. Have a good night. Those who want to stay for the Parsha, everyone's got to just click off for a minute and then just click right back on so I can restart a new meeting.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Okay.